Welcome, Aggie Nation. Happy Wednesday. We hope that everyone watching right now is staying safe, staying healthy. We are very excited to bring some good news into the houses of the Del Val fans as we are joined today by newly minted Mid-Atlantic Conference Hall of Famer Alisa Kintner, formerly Alisa DiBonaventura, and her coach and current Aggies head coach, Laura Hogan. But before I let the real stars of the interview talk, let me rattle off just a little bit about Alisa's career at Del Val that made her the surefire, no doubt, MAC Hall of Famer. She donned the green and gold from 1998 to 2001, became the first Aggies basketball player, male or female, to earn All-American honors. She holds program records for steals in a single season, assists in a single game, career assist, and she owns the top 3 spots for single season assist total by a wide margin. And to boot, she led the entire country in assists twice in her career. But I digress. We'll get into all of that and the more details a little bit later. Upon graduating from Del Val, she maintained her love of the game and pursued a career in coaching, which has landed her at fellow MAC affiliate Widener University, where she has been the head women's basketball coach of the Pride since 2002. Alisa, congratulations and welcome, and thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me.
And also with us is Alisa's coach and the current Aggie women's basketball coach, who I must mention before she hurts me, put together a pretty good career of her own. Also a member of the MAC Hall of Fame, head coach Laura Hogan. Coach, it's good to see you again virtually. Thanks for your time. How are you?
I'm great, Chris. How are you? Hi, Alisa.
Hi, Coach.
All right, so Coach, I want to start with you. You were one of the first ones to learn that Alisa was being nominated and considered for the MAC Hall of Fame, and you were the first one to learn that she is getting inducted as the class of 2020, and you were the one to give her the call and let her know and deliver the news. How was that, and how was it to see one of your former players get an accomplishment like this?
Oh, I thought it was great, Chris. I actually thought it was a couple years too late. I thought a couple years ago she was going to maybe get into the mix, but well deserved, and I couldn't have been happier to make that call. I know she was kind of surprised, so it was a pretty special day when I called her a couple weeks ago to let her know.
And Alisa, let's flip the question to you. Did you have any idea that this was a possibility? Was it on your radar? Is it something that you think about and strive for? And then, what was it like when Coach reached out to you?
Honestly, I did not think about it at all. Being in this conference, you think that I should, but I didn't. It was such a great call, especially coming from my coach. She's somebody who inspired me to be in this business. So I can't ask for a better person to tell me it's such a great accomplishment, and I'm really excited about it. And I can't be more thankful for you guys for nominating me and for playing what I consider under the best coach of the MAC.
Well, it's well-deserved, that is for sure. So, of course, I touched on the accolades a little bit earlier, but let me delve a little bit deeper into the career highlights and just how impressive some of these numbers are. And then, Coach, I'll turn it over to you and let you really paint the picture with those numbers and what made Alisa so good on the floor. So her first season here was 98-99. And in a game against Lycoming that season, it was later in the year in January, she dished out 17 assists, which was a single game record, and it's a record that has stood for 20 years now. So a very impressive feat. That season, she went on to break the single season assist record with 194, and then she would continue to break that record year after year. Her junior year, she had 205 assists. Her senior year, 237 assists. And, I mean, those numbers there, no one in the country was close to her. You add those totals up, it's 636 career assists, which is another program record. So, Coach, elaborate on these numbers a little bit for us. And for those who didn't get to see Alisa play, what was it like to watch her game? And what was it that made her so good and gave her that, that vision of the floor?
Well, I think the first thing is, Chris, her competitiveness. She did not want to lose, and she came to play every game. She was a gamer. She was ready to go game day. And she just had an unbelievable vision. And we wanted to play a certain style, and she was going to lead us. And if everybody did what they needed to do, she was going to find them. She was going to get them the ball. I mean, I can remember saying I would have loved to have been able to play with a point guard like that, because if you just did what she told you to do, she'd find you. You just had to, and she let us. She was our team leader out there. She directed us, and her teammates loved playing for her. But she was just so much fun to watch. There were times that she did things that I couldn't believe myself. It was really impressive. But her teammates believed in her. We did as a coaching staff, and you just, if you were in the right spot, she was finding you, and you just had to make that shot for her. You had to make sure you finished for her.
Now, Alisa, was that always how you like to play the game? Throughout high school or growing up, were you always more of a facilitator than a scorer, or was that something you were able to become because it was what the team needed when you arrived here?
I would say in high school, I had a 6'2" center who played at Penn State. So it was get her, I had a couple D1 kids around me, and we had to get the ball to them. And I liked it, honestly, until I got to Del Val. And then when I got to Del Val, I had a coach who would yell at me for not shooting the ball. So it wasn't what I wanted to do, but when we needed it, I would shoot the ball. But there was times, after games, I could have 10 assists and she'd tell me I needed 10 more points, which was why we got along so well. I was extremely competitive, like Coach said, to win. So if it was something we needed to do, I would do it. But to be honest, I have a God-given talent to distribute the ball. I don't know how else to explain it. Everybody asked, how'd you see them? I don't know. I still, to this day, with coaching, cannot explain how I see people. My peripheral vision is just outstanding, I would say. And even when I'm coaching, I see the same thing. And I can't understand why my point guard can't get the ball to where it needs to be. And unfortunately, they're playing for me because I have a God-given talent to be able to distribute the ball, and I really, really enjoy it. I'm a type of kid that, liked the oohs and ahs when it was going on. And I felt that when I made a good pass, you got a lot more than that than when you hit a 3-point jump shot. So to me, I really feel it's a God-given talent, and I kind of excelled with it just because it was given to me.
Absolutely. So let's get a little bit deeper into, a couple of the seasons that you were here. So, Coach, first of all, the 97-98 season, right before Alisa got here, you guys won 8 games. You didn't make the playoffs, but you had some good pieces in place with Jeannie Wozniak. I mean, the program's all-time leading scorer being one of them. But then in 98-99, you bring in Alisa with Kristen Henry, Lauren Snyder, again, names that you recognize if you're familiar with Del Val women's basketball. And you guys go from 8-16 to 18-9 and in the ECAC playoffs. So what was it like the first year with that team? Did they seem to gel right away?
They did. They certainly had a chemistry off the court that I think always helps you coaching women on the court. And they were all competitive. They all wanted to win. No matter what we did, if it was preseason and there was a hard workout, they came in, they attacked it, they did it, they got their job done. They went to work. We went to work every day. They came in with the right attitude, and they took it upon. They had a little chip on their shoulder. They knew that we weren't the best team in that conference, but they all thought that individually they were pretty good players, as I did too. And I would tell them every day how good I thought they were, and we just kept working. And her leading us, we kept at it. And they had a chip on their shoulder. There was something about that group of kids that, we had an alumni game 2 years ago maybe, and Kristen Henry and Lauren Snyder came up and they were stealing the ball from people. Like, you would have thought that's just how they play. They didn't know any different. And to this day, I don't think they know any different. Either does Alisa. I mean, when she goes to work, it's go to work. When it's time to get out there on the court and lace them up, we did. And it was great. It was probably some of the best years of my coaching, really. As a young coach, it was great.
So, Alisa, I want to throw the same question back at you. If you remember that first season and playing with that team and what it was like getting integrated into Coach Hogan's system. But with that, I kind of want to tee you up for this one game that I found early in the season. The headline here is Aggies upset number 2 Scranton. It was the game Jeannie reached the 1,000 point mark. Give us a little bit about that year. What it was like playing with those girls on that floor, and getting integrated with coach's system. And was that Scranton game kind of like, what was it like winning that game against a national powerhouse like Scranton?
Well, for my 3 years at Del Val, Scranton was always the powerhouse. It wasn't really, I mean, DeSales was good, but Scranton was top 5 in the country every year. And you got up for that game and you had to try to play your best game. If everybody wasn't playing their best game, you weren't going to win. And with I believe Jeannie may have been a senior, maybe a junior at that year. She was going for 1,000 points. And we kind of wanted to we were so close, like Coach was saying. We really wanted to play for each other. It wasn't there no individual on our team, which was pretty awesome. And Coach put the pieces around me to make us successful, I feel. I had Kristen Henry, who's a 4 position, who could shoot the 3, and she liked the cherry pick. I hope she's not listening to this. I used to throw it long. She rarely came back on defense, and the reason it worked is because we had a workhorse in Lauren Snyder that got the rebound. And as soon as she got the rebound, she got it to me, and I threw it long to Kristen, who was cherry picking, and nobody could stop it. To be honest, we just had some pieces around it. And you also had Jeannie Wozniak, who could shoot the 3 and get down there and be our shooter. So the pieces kind of fell in place that year. It was my first year. I transferred from Slippery Rock. So to be honest, I was coming into a whole different system. But the thing that worked for me is, it's the reason why me and Coach are still tight to this day, is we're very similar. She's as competitive as I am, and she wants to win. And together, I feel like, over those 3 years, we kind of built a dynasty at Del Val, which was pretty awesome. I mean, I talk to Coach a lot. Obviously, she's my mentor in coaching, and was great for me as a player. I try to get a relationship with my players like I had with her, and she's the reason, I'm doing what I'm doing. And to be honest, I think that she did that with a lot of us. She mentioned Kristen and Lauren going back for an alumni game. I'm still really good friends with Lauren, Alexis, Michelle, people I played with, were in my wedding, and still talk to this day. And immediately after that alumni game, Lauren called me and said, "Why weren't you there?" Well, I'm a coach, and my alumni game for Widener was the same exact time, or I would have been there. She said, "I would have had 15 more points if you were there," and that's the competitive, at me being 40, her being 39, that's the way that she's talking at an alumni game. She said, "I don't understand why people aren't playing hard." Well, that's because that's what we did. When you get on the hardwood, you just compete it. And I thought we did a good job. We may not have been the most talented team, but we definitely did work hard.
And before I shortchange you, in that game against number 2 ranked Scranton, you had 21 points, 10 assists, and 5 steals with a block shot. In the game story here, Scranton pulled it within 5, 67-62 with 2:15 left. But you came down, hit a clutch 3-pointer 13 seconds later, got the lead back to 8, and seemed to seal the victory there, which seemed to ignite you guys that year and really, really keep you going.
I think I can recall that specific moment, to be honest, and there's not many that I can really trigger, but I remember playing Kelly Halpin, I believe her name was, right, from
Yep.
Para. So
Yep.
we played each other in high school and college, and she was a first-team All-American. And I believe, now don't quote me on this, but I believe that my coach said to me, "If you want to be an All-American, you got to beat an All-American." And I think I remember that prior to that game. And I came down, and I can remember hitting that 3. And I was a little smug as a player. I think I looked over at Coach and smiled and kind of held my hand a little bit longer than I should have. I wouldn't want to see one of my players do that nowadays, but I believe as a player I did that, and I can recall that game, and that was a special one.
I remember that moment too.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah. You had a look in your eye, and I mean, Chris, you go back to when you even said earlier, like, how did she see everybody? What was it about her? And she, had this God-given ability, but she had such ball control. I mean, it was rare that anybody would ever steal the ball from her. So there was always a nice calmness in our team and our staff. When the ball was in her hands, we could look elsewhere and figure out what we need to do, because nobody's taking it from her, and but I can remember too, at least that game. I think is that the game where you guys kept telling me we were going to beat them, and I said, if we beat Scranton, I'll get a tattoo.
Yep.
I think we even had Levy involved in that. He was, or he shaved his head maybe or something.
Yeah, I think it was his head shaved, and you were going to get like a Shamrock or something tattoo
Right.
or a Belleville Aggie or something.
You never lived
That's
up to
how-
that, did you, Coach?
Yeah, no, I never did. I think, Chris, that might be the game that is how our fan Kate started.
Oh,
I
wow.
think
No
Kate
way.
came down to watch us play Scranton that year, packed gym. They're two in the country. We're not supposed to beat them. And here we come out and beat them and play the way we play. I mean, we did. We played hard. We played hard. And I think ever since that game, Kate, our fan, has been following us. And obviously she follows Alisa and all, Jackie's team and all the teams, the kids that have played. But I think that's the first game she came to.
Yeah, of course, definitely a special shout out to Kate Salcido and her husband. Great supporters of the Del Valle women's basketball program, and we really appreciate them. It's always good to see them at the games.
Yes, it is.
So let's fast forward this season now, right? So you guys knock off number 2 Scranton early in the year. I think you finished the regular season 18-8, and now you go into the ECAC playoffs. The playoffs are hosted at DeSales, which was then Allentown College still, but in Bolera Hall where they still play. You guys face Kings in the first round, right? First game, and you guys are up 8 at halftime. It's 42-34. And you go on to win 87-84 over a pretty good Kings team. I think you guys might have been the 4th seed. They were the 1 seed. So you win the ECAC semifinal game to get you in the finals. Alisa, I mean, you had a heck of a game that day. 17 points, 12 assists, 9 steals, a block shot. I mean, almost a triple-double. It seems like you really elevated your game for that. Coach, is that something she did in the playoffs? Was she a big game player, or was it pretty consistent all the time?
I think it was pretty consistent all the time, but obviously she knew what playoffs meant. She took her game to another level at that time, but no, she only knew one way to play. She played the same way every time, but playoffs are playoffs. So she brought in, added it to it, but that was Alisa. I don't know who she blocked. Who'd you block?
They make that a small point guard.
I know she jokes about, I got on her to shoot. She had a nice shot. She could shoot the 3. And I wanted her to do that more. And, players had to start getting off her because if they were up on her too much, she was going to go by them. So she added that to her game, I thought. But, yeah, that was a special game. She played well. Yeah.
Well, legend has it, and I've heard through many stories of people that followed the team, especially Matt Levy, the former sports information director here, that there was one pass in that game where you were over by the bench and almost launched it full court to I don't know who it was down at the other end. Do you remember this play, Alisa?
I don't know, but I'm gonna say if I'm launching it, it was probably Kristen Henry.
I think
Coach, do you remember the play?
Henry. I do. She was right in front of me, and she did it like one-handed. Like off a dribble, one-handed. Kristen laid it up, and the whole gym was shocked. But yeah, Kristen knew how to use Alisa. She did. I mean, you give her credit. And Alisa's right when she says with Lauren. Lauren got the rebound. She got it right to Alisa.
So then you guys go into the ECAC championship game that year, 99, against Allentown College, now DeSales. Alisa, you played a pretty good game as well. I mean, it looks like, although I do see a 5th foul on here. I don't know when it came. But you had 17 points, 7 assists, 4 steals. What happened in that championship game? Do you guys recall?
So whenever we played, and there's some players on the DeSales or Allentown College at that point team that I still actually talk to, and they joke about it. There is one player in the league that really startled me. And Fred Richter's still running that same exact press. And I saw it this year when we scrimmaged them. But this girl really had my number, and I struggled. And I think my temper had the best of me that game. I didn't foul out often. And I'm pretty sure I deserved all 5 fouls that game. So I think that game would probably go down. And I do recall as it was an okay game, but definitely not my best because I struggled to get the ball across half court. And I believe Coach may have benched me that game, for a minute or two because I was struggling a little bit to get the ball across half court.
Yeah, I don't know what it was with Colette Mancuso, but she was a really good defender. And Lisa knew she was a good defender. And there were times that she'd let her get in her head. And, but yeah, I remember her now that you say that. Yeah.
Me too. I know that. I still hear, bad dreams, nightmares about that girl.
All right, so that season comes to an end, almost heartbreaking fashion, the ECAC championship. But you guys are returning a pretty good roster still the next year. But you guys take a step back that year. Was that a learning year? Were you guys able to grow because you bounced back in Alisa's senior year? And we'll touch on that in a little bit. But you set a program record for wins. So what was it about your junior year, Lisa, that you guys had to go through or learn to bounce back?
I think the biggest problem, I had a pretty good first year at Del Val, and then the second year, it's like everybody figured out who I was and what I was going to do, and I struggled with that. Honestly, I don't think I worked out enough over the summer to be at the level that I needed to be coming in. I think it was a little bit more of a chip on my shoulder that I was pretty good the year before, which I find in a lot of athletes as I'm coaching. I kind of regret as well. When you look back, there's always something that you regret during your 4 years of college. I would say that was one of them. I think I needed to work out more than I did to be a better player for our program. I don't think I was the only one. Honestly, I don't think we worked as hard as that we needed to work to come into a season where there's a bullseye on your back and you need to go try to do better and be better, and we weren't. So I would take that on my shoulders completely. I mean, I think I was a second team all conference player that year as a junior, and which also made me strive and go for something more my senior year. So it was a wake up call. I wish that year was a little bit better than what it was, but it made my senior year even better for me.
I agree, Chris. I think all in all, the whole team, again, Del Val, our program wasn't very good. Nobody really got up to play us, so then we go through that year where people realize, all right, they're for real. And then I think all the success that we all saw, myself as a coach, and then all these young players, I think everybody thought we're just going to come back and just pick up from where we left off. And, as she said, it doesn't work that way. You gotta still earn it. You got to work harder in the off season if you want to be better. And we learned from that. I think everybody on that team and everybody that came from that year to the following year, we all learned from it. And we weren't going to let it happen to us her senior year, that's for sure.
Now, 2000-2001 season, it's Alisa's senior year. Jeannie, I don't know if she graduated last year or the year before, but Alisa, looking at your line from that year, you seem to elevate your game and become quite the scorer. You average 15 points a game. You're averaging 5 rebounds a game, and you had 237 assists in 27 games. And you guys got off to an 11-0 start that year. You started off the season beating York, beat Lev Val, and just going through the season scores here. I mean, you guys were scoring a lot of points. You put up 99 on Gwynedd, 100 on Newman, 100 on Frostburg, 90 here, 90 there. What was that year like? What was it like getting out to 11-0?
Well, I would say what I spoke about earlier is I think we were pretty mad that the year before didn't go the way it was supposed to go. And I knew that this was my last season. I'm pretty sure I had knee surgery going into my senior year, right, Coach? Or was that junior year? My senior year.
Yeah, you did.
So I was pretty banged up about that, and it made me get mad. And when I'm mad, I work harder. And I feel like I kind of, in the off season, took it and elevated my play to a higher level. I had my parents, I'll never forget my dad bending my knee because I couldn't bend my knee, and me screaming and thinking that, the season's right around the corner. I wasn't able to do preseason that year, so I was a little worried about my shape, but I think coming in, I just had one thing I wanted to do, and I wanted to win a MAC championship. Unfortunately, we didn't get to do that, but I think going into it was just being mad from the year before. It didn't work out the way it was supposed to, and I had to elevate my game in order for us to kind of be successful and attain the goals that we were trying to attain at that point.
Yeah, I agree. I think maybe everybody kind of elevated their game a little bit. I think Lauren Snyder started to look to score a little bit more. So we had some more options, I think, going into that year.
Yeah, I'd agree with you, Coach. And I think us being a year older, myself being a senior, and then I would say, my duo around me would be Kristen and Lauren. We're now juniors. So I think we were a year older. We knew the league a little bit better. And I think each of us had to do have another part of our game that we haven't shown yet. And I would say mine going into my senior year was I knew I had to score more. If you would have asked me freshman, sophomore year, if I would be averaging 15 points a game, I would say absolutely not, because I'd like to distribute so much. But I knew I had to kind of elevate my game in a different way that year. And what I did was I remember I was shooting 3-pointers nonstop because, like Coach said, they were stepping off me a lot more because my drive was a little bit more dangerous than my shot. And I created a shot coming into my senior year. And I think that's what made me a more dynamic scorer, I guess you would say.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I think her shooting was unbelievable her senior year. But I would say if we were lacking anything, we were lacking that dominant post player, that dominant center. We had Kristen down there, but she really wanted to be outside at the 3-point line. But if, we were scoring without really having that dominant post player where we were coming down and throwing it into the post every time, that just wasn't the way we played.
So, as if the personal records and the personal achievements weren't enough, Alisa, you helped lead the team to a team record, a program record, 21 wins that year. It's arguably the best season, most successful season in Del Val women's basketball history. You guys finished, I think, 21-8, and you win the ECAC championship. Coach, is there one game that sticks out to you from that season?
It was a fun year. It was, you got so excited for game day because, like I said, this was a group that, we practiced as hard as we played, and but game day was fun.
So DCAC playoffs, you guys are hosting first games against Western Maryland, now McDaniel. You guys win 65-53. See if I have that box score here. Yeah. So Alisa dishes out 10 assists, 2 steals, 8 points. But it seems like you guys won that one pretty convincingly. You're up 10 at halftime in the first round of the ECAC game. Looks like Kristen Henry had 19, and then Amber Smolinski went for 13. So you guys win that, and now you're going to the ECAC championship game. What are your thoughts going into that finals game against DeSales?
I think if I recall that game, was there a snowstorm? We might have even had to move up the time of play. But I can
say this game started at 12:30.
Yeah, it was snowing, and for us, it was bittersweet because there was a chance this is this kid's last game. No matter win or lose, I'm going to watch her, be able to coach her, watch her play. So it was an emotional game, and you tried not to show that emotion, and so did she, because she certainly wanted to go out a winner. But I do remember that game, and I remember us going in very prepared and wanting to play. I could see it in their faces in the locker room. I knew they were there to play.
So that finals game now, the ECAC championship game against DeSales, looking at the box score, Alisa, I mean, obviously I wasn't there, but it looked like you really had to grind it out that game. You might have struggled from the field, 2 for 11, but you got to the free throw line 14 times, and you were 12 for 14 from the free throw line, so you still finished with 18 points. Of course, you got your 10 assists, you had 4 steals, and you guys go up on DeSales big at halftime. You're up 46-30 at the half. And then it looks like it was kind of a grinded out down the stretch, and you guys pull it out to win by 10. You recall that game?
Yeah, I remember kind of like what Coach said. That was probably the hardest day and game of my career, because most are, you win, you stay in, you lose, you're out. Well, I knew that was my last game. There was no, this was it. So going into that game, I remember being emotional before games, and that's kind of not, if I'm emotional, it's probably not going to be a good game. And I remember going in, and I remember Coach putting her arm around me and said, no matter win or lose, it was a great career, and this was like before the game. So then I got even a little bit more emotional, like crap. All right. But I do remember the start of that game not being the greatest. And you're exactly right. I do remember shooting that poorly. And the first two shots that I had in that game were layups. And they were the worst layups that you would ever see. They were bricks. I don't know if I even hit the rim. That's how bad it was. So she did take me out, which was great because that's what I needed. I needed to compose myself, and I got back in and kind of took a different approach to the game and was trying to get fouled. I was doing a lot more pull-ups at the foul line. I have what I would consider my signature move of my in and out crossover and then a jump shot, and people were fouling me on it. So that's where I got to the foul line. But I wouldn't say it was one of the greatest game I played, but it got it done.
I thought in general it came down to, towards the end, I thought we were in a little bit better shape. We were running the floor a little bit on them, so we had gotten some fast breaks and were able to get up and down the floor pretty well. But yeah, I do remember that. I do remember taking you out, kind of settling you down, and but always believed in her. No matter if she missed one layup, you knew she was going to do something good. I mean, she's never played a game that I coached or watched her play that, she did too many bad things. If she missed a layup or made a bad pass, she was going to make up for it in the next 3 minutes.
From my standpoint, the great players, even if they're not shooting well, they find a way to have an impact on the game that'll help the team win. And that's clearly evident in the last game of your career there.
Yeah, I mean, it was a fun game because we won it, but, there's a picture that is actually priceless of Coach and I after she just took me out. At the end of the game, we're up by 10, I believe it was, or 8 or something. So we kind of had it in the bag. So she gave, subbed me out so everybody could clap, your normal senior type of thing. And there's a picture that I have in that book I was telling you about where both of us look exactly the same. It's a panoramic of the team sitting on the bench, and my hands are in my head, and so are coaches, and we're sitting side by side. And it's pretty a priceless picture that I look back on, because as great as a moment, because we won the ECAC championship, everybody wants to win a championship, it just shows how tight we were and how the season ended. And not all good things, when you're in your last game, it's not a party as much as for me it was sad, and it showed that Coach was going to miss me a little bit too. It was a pretty priceless picture, to be honest, of our last game, and her coaching me for the last time.
Yeah, it was kind of hard to recruit a point guard after that. Because there was nobody that was, it made you realize, sometimes they say that you don't realize what you have till it's gone. Whoa, it was, yeah. I remember that, Lisa. I remember that moment and that game, and yeah.
That's really cool. And just to kind of wrap it up here, it's cool to see how much your careers really mirror each other. Both playing at Del Val, both very successful careers all over the record book. MAC Player of the Year, MAC Player of the Year, ECAC Player of the Year, Coach, and Alisa ECAC Player of the Year in the 2001 season. Coach goes into the Del Val Hall of Fame, Alisa in the Del Val Hall of Fame. Coach went in the MAC Hall of Fame a couple years ago, and now Alisa, your turn for the MAC Hall of Fame. So, do you guys still keep in touch frequently? Do you still follow each other's careers, check on box scores, root for each other?
We do it all, Chris, honestly. Like you mentioned, she is my mentor. She is part of the reason of why I do what I do. I love playing for her. I love being a great friend with her now. I mean, we talk weekly when we're in season. It's part of the reason why we don't play. We do scrimmage each other, every now and then, but we can never play a game against each other because we talk so much. Obviously, if I'm having problems, she's having problems, we were able to talk it out. We have the same style. I don't have a style. My style is her style. So we do a lot of offenses that I got from her, a lot of defenses I got from her. So there's a lot of times where I'm picking her brain during the season of what she's been doing for the last 25 years of coaching. So to me, she's not just a mentor. She's a very good friend of mine, and I know we're going to continue to talk for our careers and after our careers. It, it's been great. I love watching, her family grow up. She's watching my family grow up, which is pretty awesome. So not only, just my coach, she's my friend, she's my mentor. She's done a lot for me.
I agree everything she said, Chris. She's always there for me when, sometimes the tables turn and, when you're the coach and she's your player, it's always that, sometimes you think that they're always calling you, but over the last couple of years, some ups and downs for me in my career, I know that I've had her to be able to call, and she's been there for me. And like she said, I'm watching her raise her 2 kids. Mine's, thank God, going off to college soon, but it's, and we're great friends with her family. My husband's good friends with her family. They're just good people. There was just a great connection from the first time she ever stepped foot on Del Val's campus, and I got to meet her and her parents when I found out the great news that she was leaving Slippery Rock. So it's been great. It's been a relationship, and it goes down in why you do this, and why you coach a lot. It's obviously to win and the competitiveness, and you love the game of basketball, but it's the relationships that you made, and I couldn't be more blessed with the kids that I've coached and that I've stayed in touch with, and for all these years, for me and Alisa to still have a relationship, it's awesome. And I'm very proud of her. I think she's deserving of this award, and it's a shame you never got to see her play because, man, was she a hell of a player. Very fun to watch.
Well, I've certainly lived it the best anyone could through yourself and Matt Lee, sharing all the stories and the box scores, and now being entrenched with the box scores all this past week. So it's been a lot of fun reliving your career, Lisa. I hope we get to celebrate you on campus and get to see you on campus and celebrate you getting into the MAC Hall of Fame. But I really appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us. Again, congratulations. And good luck next year. Good luck to you, Coach, as well.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Congratulations, Lise.
Thanks, Coach. I just want to thank you guys, for nominating me. This wouldn't be possible without you guys. I really appreciate you looking back into it and seeing the past history of women's basketball, because it was pretty special to me, pretty special, I'm assuming, not assuming, but to Coach, as well as the players that were there. So I really appreciate you going out of your way and doing this for me and the program. I can't thank you enough, Chris. I appreciate it.